The New Balance 1080 version 11. After all this time, it's finally beginning to grow on me. Let's talk about it. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Filip Latocha, and as you can guess by the title, we are going to be discussing the New Balance 1080 version 11 after 100 plus miles in my current shoe lineup. What's good, what's working, what's bad, and just overall what I'm thinking about the shoe. But of course, before we get into it, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're already subscribed to the channel and you're watching the content as is, thanks so much. Love you guys a lot. Specs right here for the shoe for those interested. Let's just get right into it. So, the first times we've been talking about this shoe, it was definitely more advertised as like a daily trainer kind of vibe, which again, I was definitely all in for it early on in my training shoe rotation. And then after a while, the shoe kind of had to get pushed back to the side. I obviously had the Hoka One One Mach 4s in my lineup for a little while. And there was this problem that was beginning to happen where, okay, so I'm not like that old, but like my recovery is pretty good post-run, post most races, workouts, things like that. So to have a shoe that I would deem a recovery tier shoe in my lineup is not really necessary. So like I can basically take like the Mach 4s for an everyday run with a little bit of speed here and there pretty regularly. So having a shoe that's a little bit heavier than the Mach 4 with not as many moving parts, if not similar to the Mach 4, but also having a different ride which isn't necessarily to my form is kind of unnecessary. So the 1080 version 11, after like 50-60 miles in my shoe lineup, ended up just getting shelved. I was using it more for like walking, going to the gym, things like that. So there's a little bit of wear and tear you'll see at on the outsole and the bottoms when we get there. But what happened was, after the Chicago Marathon, you know, my body's completely shattered. It's all beat up. A lot of micro tendons in my ankle, my calves, shins, they're all just beat up. And I guess we include the foot in there as well. So running in something like a Mach 4 that's a little more, that requires a little more aggression for a lot more return wasn't necessarily a good option. I just need something slow that I can just kind of put in a few miles with, that was comfortable and just wasn't going to hurt. That's where in the 1080 version 11 ended up being that kind of light at the end of the tunnel. I thought about it for a little while and I said, hey, this is a shoe that I can't necessarily run fast in if I'm not like putting in the effort for it. Why don't I just take it out for like a run that feels like, you know, everyday effort that's about something between 7 to 8 minutes per mile pace, and just see what happens. Because this shoe, like as we've discussed before, it has a very interesting mechanic to it, which also happens in a lot of other shoes, but nothing I particularly use, where because of this front area's, I guess, arch, the idea is you want to land with the midfoot and get the roll to have the Pro Foam pretty much do its job with this shoe. So, in that case, after the Chicago Marathon, when, again, the micro tendons in my legs are all pretty much fried and whatnot, I can't get the running form I had basically on race day the next couple of days, if not for like the entire week after the race, back into shape. So if you have a shoe that's a lot more forgiving to the form that you're putting on, and it'll just work with you and work with your pace, then you have a really good recovery shoe. And that's, I guess, the point of having that type of shoe, is basically just to work with you. And essentially, yeah, I don't know how much you guys want me to break that down, but like, long story short, my running form had slightly changed with my foot impact, and it allowed for more of that midfoot strike rather than this aggressive toe strike that would hit the ground, kind of a slight bounce, and then push back out. So having this kind of midfoot strike with a roll is really comfortable, and just it's compatible with my form right now, as I am still just a smidgen beat up from the Chicago Marathon still. I'm probably at about 70%, soon to put in some speed work once the time is right, but I digress. So this has been an awesome recovery shoe thus far, and I'm willing to try to experiment putting some more speed into it, but it's going to take a little bit of time, obviously. And then, of course, I still have the Mach 4s, so if I do want to do some everyday speed that's reliable, I still have those. So let's show what the outsoles of the shoes look like, and I'll just break them down for you as we kind of more or less talk about it. So that is the left foot. That is the heel. This is the right foot. That's the heel. And as we can tell, it looks like because of the walking, both shoes have a very similar wear and tear pretty much all over the shoe, especially on both anterior sides, as you probably see here. But of course, because of the running, as we can see with the right shoe, this area right here in the mid forefoot region is a little more shredded, and it's getting into the fresh foam area on the anterior right here in the corner. But the rubber is still holding up pretty well. There isn't a whole lot of slippage from what I see in that general region. I think the shoe's life is going to be determined on how long this particular strip of rubber on the shoe is going to last. But it's also probably going to be interesting to see what this area of the shoe is going to do moving forward. Not necessarily from a wear and tear standpoint, but to see when the wear starts occurring more and more, what's going to happen in this area. Because this, it might be kind of hard to see, but this area protrudes a little bit more than the rubber on both the top and bottom of this shoe area. So it's just going to be, you know, fascinating to see if it's, when it starts burning into the fresh foam, if it's going to start, you know, being used a little bit more, if it's just going to keep burning and burning and the shoe's going to go flat. I want to just see what happens with it. But yeah, right in that central midfoot region, there's still a lot of rubber, a lot of area for the shoe to play around with, so not a lot of wear and tear at approximately 100 miles of running in this case. So that's kind of the good and the what's working of the shoe. Let's kind of break in what still needs a little bit of work for me. Again, it's still a little bit of this weird sensational slippage in the heel because of this like heel cap that the shoe has. Yeah, it's very easy to get in and out of the shoe with it, but again, it's just a sensational thing where in like the first 400, 800 meters of your run, it just feels like you're super loose, but then after a while, the shoe does get that grip for your foot and you just feel awesome in it. So that's the weird thing. But in terms of bad, there's nothing really bad about the shoe in retrospect to what it is on its own. Like, when you're comparing it to other things, now we can start discussing some of those key points. But the ultimate point here is that as a standalone everyday / recovery shoe, I really like this shoe, and I can't really say anything too bad about it in terms of its fit, in terms of its ride. It is what it is. So if you like the assessment of the New Balance 1080 version 11, give it a thumbs up in the video. Leave me some comments down below what you think about the shoe if you own it. If you have any questions about it, I'll do my best to answer them as I can. So with that in mind, thanks for watching the video. I'll see you guys in the next one.